March 8th, 2024. The traffic on I-95 was a relentless beast, a concrete river of headlights flowing south. I gripped the steering wheel tighter, my knuckles white. Rain lashed against the windshield, blurring the already desolate landscape of New Jersey. My GPS blared nonsensically, the woman's voice robotic and unhelpful. I'd lost signal miles ago, somewhere around the crumbling remains of an abandoned diner with faded neon proclaiming, "Welcome travelers." Headlights flicker out behind me, then pulled alongside. A beat-up pickup truck, its exhaust spewing a plume of black smoke. The driver, a man weathered and leathery like an old baseball mitt, rolled down his window. "You lost, son?" he rasped, his voice gravelly. I hesitated. "Yeah," I admitted. "Trying to find Elmwood Street. Doesn't seem to be on the map." The man's smile was a line of yellow teeth. "Elmwood Street? Ain't been on a map in years. You sure that's where you want to be heading on a night like this?" I felt a prickle of unease crawl down my spine. "Why not?" He shrugged, the truck swaying slightly as if he'd hit a rut. "Folks say it ain't the friendliest place. Bad things happen there. Folks disappear." My heart hammered in my chest. Disappear? It was just a street, right? But the way he said it, the weight in his voice, sent a shiver down me. "Look," I said, trying to sound confident. "I have to get there. It's important." He gave me another cryptic look, then nodded curtly. "Suit yourself. Just remember, son, some roads are best left untraveled." He pulled ahead, accelerating into the storm-churned darkness. My unease morphed into a strange determination. Why would anyone want to hide a street from the world? What secrets did Elmwood hold? The highway stretched on endlessly, the only signs those for long-gone gas stations and forgotten towns. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, a decaying wooden sign emerged from the swirling mist. "Elmwood Street. Exit next right." Curiosity warring with a deep-seated fear, I took the exit. The road narrowed, becoming a deserted two-lane that snaked through a dense, overgrown forest. The rain had stopped, but the air hung heavy with an oppressive silence. No streetlights illuminated the way. My headlights cut through the darkness, revealing decaying houses, their windows like vacant eyes staring into the night. The houses weren't simply abandoned. They were wrong. Doors hung ajar, revealing cobweb-draped interiors. Paint peeled in grotesque patchwork patterns. Yards were choked with overgrown weeds and skeletal trees, their branches clawing at the sky like skeletal fingers. A shiver ran down my spine. This wasn't neglect. It was a deliberate act of decay. It was as if the houses themselves were trying to hide something. Suddenly, the GPS chimed in, the robotic voice impossibly clear amidst the oppressive silence. "Destination, Elmwood Street. You have arrived." My heart hammered a frantic rhythm against my ribs. On the horizon, a lone gas station loomed, its skeletal pumps jutting into the night like bony fingers. Across the street stood a small ramshackle motel, its neon sign flickering erratically. Vacancy. The flickering lights beckoned like a morbid lighthouse. With a deep breath, I pulled into the motel's desolate parking lot. The office was deserted. A bell hung above the counter, but pressing it produced no response. Through a grimy window, I could see a dusty lobby, devoid of furniture, with cobwebs draped across the corners like macabre decorations. Hesitantly, I reached for the worn register and scribbled down my arrival. A ridiculous formality in this desolate place. With a key in my hand, I stepped out into the oppressive silence. My room, number 13 of course, was as dust-ridden as the lobby. The bedspread looked like it hadn't been touched in years, and a damp chill clung to the air. But it was a roof over my head, even if it was a potentially haunted one. Exhaustion finally overcame my unease. I collapsed onto the creaking bed and drifted off to sleep. My dreams were vivid, a swirling mix of flickering neon and whispering voices. I saw children playing on deserted streets, their laughter echoing off the hollow houses. Then, the laughter turned to screams. I woke with a start. Drenched in sweat, the room plunged back into darkness. Something wasn't right. A low hum throbbed in the darkness, a sound both rhythmic and unsettling. I fumbled for the lamp on the nightstand, its bulb flickering to life with a sickly yellow glow. The hum seemed to emanate from the walls themselves, a vibration deep within the ancient building. Fear crawled up my throat, squeezing the air from my lungs. I grabbed my phone, the battery hovering at a precarious 2%. No signal, of course. This place swallowed everything, even connection. Suddenly, a scratching sound came from the window. I froze, every nerve on edge. The window was old, the pane cracked and grime-caked. Through the dust, I could barely make out a silhouette, a child, small and skeletal, with eyes that glinted like cold embers in the night. Panic clawed at me. I scrambled out of bed, adrenaline pumping. There was no way a child could have reached the second floor, yet there it was, its skeletal hand scraping at the glass. A guttural whisper, barely audible, wormed its way through the window. "Let us in." My primal instinct for survival kicked in. I lunged for the rusty fire escape hanging outside the window, the metal cold against my skin as I yanked it open. Without a second thought, I clambered out, the rickety metal protesting under my weight. The wind whipped at my face, carrying the faint scent of decay and something floral, sickly sweet. Below me, the ground seemed impossibly far away. But the thought of facing that childlike entity was far more terrifying. Climbing down the fire escape, each rung groaning in protest, I finally reached the ground. The motel parking lot stretched before me, the gas station across the street a silent sentinel in the darkness. A flicker of movement in the corner of my eye caught my attention. It was the pickup truck from the highway, parked at the edge of the lot. The driver, the weathered man, sat behind the wheel, a cigarette glowing in the darkness. "You made it out?" he rasped, his voice led in with a strange mix of satisfaction and sadness. Relief washed over me so intensely it nearly buckled my knees. "You have to get me out of here," I gasped. "This place is, wrong." He nodded slowly. "Elmwood Street takes what it wants. You were lucky." "What is this place? What's with the voices, the child?" He took a long drag from his cigarette, the orange ember illuminating wrinkles on his face etched deep like forgotten stories. "Elmwood Street used to be a thriving community," he said, his voice low. "Then, a fire swept through, a terrible tragedy. All the children were gone." He paused, his gaze flickering to the deserted houses across the street. "They say their spirits linger, forever trapped, forever calling out." A cold dread gripped me, the whispers, the child at the window. It all fit, a horrifying picture painted with loss and anger. "Why would you send me here?" I asked, anger bubbling up. "You knew what this place was like." He looked at me steadily, his eyes filled with a profound sadness. "Sometimes," he said, "you gotta face your fears head-on to outrun them." My mind reeled. Did he know why I was here? Did he know what I was searching for? Before I could ask, a commotion erupted from the motel. A blood-curdling scream pierced the night, followed by the sound of shattering glass. It came from my room. My heart hammered a frantic rhythm against my ribs. The childlike entity, it must have gotten in. I had to help them, even if it meant returning to that den of darkness. "No," the driver yelled, grabbing my arm. "Don't go back in there, you can't help them." But I couldn't just stand there. "They need my help," I shouted, shoving his arm away. I sprinted toward the motel, the scream echoing in my ears. As I reached the door, another scream, this one raw and primal, tore through the night. It came from inside, and it wasn't the child's voice. Fear threatened to paralyze me, but the image of that child, trapped in a cycle of endless sorrow, fueled my resolve. I threw open the door, the stench of dampness and decay assaulting my senses. The room was bathed in an eerie green glow emanating from the cracked ceiling. In the center, the childlike figure writhed on the bed, its skeletal frame thrashing violently. But it wasn't the only one. A woman, Her face contorted in a mask of pain materialized from the shadows, translucent and shimmering like a heat wave. Her arms, elongated and unnatural, wrapped constrictor-like around the child's frail body. The woman's voice, a chilling blend of sorrow and rage, filled the room. "Don't you dare take them from me. They're mine." Understanding flooded through me. This wasn't a malevolent spirit, but a grieving mother, her love twisted into a possessive prison for the children's souls. Panic receded, replaced by a desperate empathy. I couldn't fight her, not with violence. Stepping slowly towards them, I spoke softly, my voice a beacon in the storm of her anguish. "They need peace," I said. "They need to move on, to be free." The woman's head snapped towards me, her spectral eyes burning with fury. But there was a flicker of doubt, a vulnerability in her gaze. "They were mine," she rasped, her voice cracking, "lost in the fire, taken from me too soon." Tears welled up in my eyes. I understood her pain, the desperate hold on what little remained. "They loved you," I said gently. "And you loved them. But true love lets go. It allows them to find their own path." The woman wavered, her ghostly form beginning to shimmer. The fight seemed to drain from her, replaced by a profound sadness. Slowly, she loosened her grip on the child, a single tear tracing a luminous path down her cheek. "Go," she whispered, her voice barely a sigh. "Be free." The child, its skeletal frame losing its rigidity, looked up at me with eyes that no longer held the embers of despair. A faint smile flickered across its lips, a silent thank you. Then, with a soft luminescence, they both vanished, leaving behind a sense of peaceful emptiness. The room plunged back into darkness, the only sound my ragged breathing. I stumbled back, my knees buckling under the weight of what I'd just witnessed. The night had taken a toll, but with a deep breath, I knew it was time to face reality. Not just the reality of Elmwood Street, but the one I'd been running from. With a newfound clarity, I pocketed the crumpled photograph I'd clutched throughout the ordeal, a picture of a young girl with pigtails, her smile mirroring the one the child had given me. I had found what I was looking for, not in a desolate town, but within myself. The woman from the motel was right. Sometimes you have to face your fears to find peace. As the first rays of dawn painted the horizon with a soft pink glow, I walked away from Elmwood Street, the whispers of the past fading into the rustling leaves. The secrets remained, buried beneath the weight of unyielding silence. But for me, at least, the story was over. The ghosts were finally laid to rest,